It's Thursday, which means it's time for Worthy Ones, the video series where I take all the newest issue ones that I read for the current comic book week and deem them worthy or not worthy. Guys, I'm Mike Spider Slayer. Welcome back to Comic Book Corner 2.0. If you love daily comic book content and you've been watching for a while, guys, why don't you hit that subscribe button? And before we get started, I gotta give a quick shout out to the Comic Capsule. They sent me two brand new comic capsules. We got the newest color here, yellow, and the other newest color, green. And these things are absolutely awesome, right? I mean, you can color code your comics to what covers you want to fit inside. Here we're showing a Mark Spears cover, super easy. Open these bad boys up and the comic slides right inside. Here you got the pamphlet. So that's how the comic goes in there. And then you display your comic. It's got a hook on the back of it so you can hang it up in your comic book background. They're UV resistant so the comic is protected. And I always recommend when it comes to the comic capsule, even though you're protected in here, slide it in there. Still bag and board your comic and slide it in there, and it's gonna make for an awesome display. So check out Comic Capsule, guys. I don't think you'll be disappointed. Diving into the first book, we have a book by Mad Cave Studios, which some titles are really good and some titles are just not so good. And it's obviously personal preference in very many ways. And this is Pastime issue 1. This book is a $5 comic book, and this book had to deal with baseball. You don't get to see too many comic books that just have to deal with sports in general, and I would love to see that a little bit more in comic books. Like, I'm a huge tennis guy. Obviously, you guys know that's what I do for a living. I teach tennis of all ages, and hell, why not make a comic book with tennis in it, right? Or football. I'm a huge Miami Dolphin fan. So this one has a story about baseball that took place quite a while ago, like in the 1920s, right? And here is the artwork in this comic book. It looks pretty decent. I wouldn't say it's like my favorite artwork in the world, right? And this book is a $5 comic book, and it's written by Joseph Harris, and the art is done by Russell Mark Olson. And we learn about a particular character here that caused a murder, right? And that's basically what this story is. It's like a murder mystery with some baseball thrown into it, and we're trying to figure out, who got murdered, and the person that did get murdered disappeared, and it has to do with like this character that's a vampire. And so there's a lot of mystery elements in there, again, thrown in with baseball. However, I did not deem this book worthy. It wasn't my cup of tea. I didn't like it. I unfortunately thought this was going to be something much more different. I thought maybe it was going to be this guy that was like just a regular Joe Schmo trying out for a baseball team, and he's this vampire, and I don't know, he's playing baseball and he's eating people on the side. Like, I don't know. I thought it was going to be something much more different than like a murder mystery and some guy investigating the mystery that happened from years ago, right? So yeah, it just wasn't up my alley. I didn't like it. It was a D- for me. It's unfortunate, but I will not be continuing this book. Concert of Champions! This is issue 1. This is the comic you've been waiting for. This is the concert you've been waiting for. This book is 32 pages for the price of $5. It's written by Jason Liu. Rory Coleman is the artist on here, and this is the follow-up to the last Dazzler series, as she did all kinds of singing and dancing, and there was, battles going on, and in this comic book, she's suffering from like some PTSD, like she's losing her hair, she's like sick, she's depressed, and it's just like the concert, the touring, and everything is taking a toll on her, and it's like, really? It's like what you went through in your last miniseries has taken a toll on you. Like, you're an X-Man. Everything that you've been through in your entire life, and we've never seen you go through that stress in any one of those comics that you've been through. Like, you're losing your hair in here. You can't control your powers. Like, it's just so weird. And again, what this book is about is these characters like Luna Snow and Dazzler and the other character all coming together to create this concert, right? To be united. It was what's her name, Leah Cheney, and then what happens is you wind up getting these characters, these dark void-like characters that are a heavy metal band, and they start singing death metal, which I thought was the best part of the issue, right? And they're trying to bring a demon through a portal, right? And you get to see our heroes come together to try to stop these guys. Again, I thought this death metal thing was like the best thing going. And then what happens is before we get any like real action or real stakes, the threat is stopped and we don't have anything that happens. We just get freaking Dazzler who comes through here who has no hair left and she's just all depressed and she's used all her powers. So I don't know, man, but this book was definitely not worthy. I thought there was elements of this book that were okay. I thought the artwork was okay, and I get what they're going at with Dazzler here, because it's like, all right, yeah, you know, you go through a lot of things in your life and there's certain points where you're down and you're out and you need the support from your friends. Like, I get that message here, but it just seems so out of left field from where it came from the last series, right? Yeah, and so at the end of the day, I'm going to give this bad boy a D. It was entertaining, okay, and it was like one of those books that was like almost so bad that like it made me laugh. Now you got a song at the end of this, and based off of popular demand, you guys wanted to hear me sing. So that's what you're going to get. Are you ready? To all my fans out there, this is Doom and Gloom, lyrics by Jason Liu and Allison Blair. Here we go. World's got me stressed, my friends are oppressed. I'm just a singer in the world that needs saving. Fate chose me different, I'm gonna keep on living. But I'm so tired, I wanna quit, but I can't. It's horrible. But with a bit of luck, I find my way through the doom and gloom of another day. I'll rise above, I'll stand and fight, because the world needs so much hope tonight. And there you go. There is just a portion of this wonderful song. Black Ritual, the Book of Nyx. This is issue 1, 24 pages. For the price of $4. It's written by Thomas Healy, and the art is done by Nat Jones. The artwork is actually really nice in the comic. I like the tones, the colors, and yes, those facial expressions that you guys constantly say. I think Mike is really into facial expressions. They're very important in comic books because you really get a feeling of what the character is going through. You feel that pain, you feel that emotion. Like right here. If you don't have good facial expression, you can't tell that this character is scared out of her mind and frightened, right? So I love the detail. You can see that in the eyes. And that's what you look for when you're reading or looking at the artwork in a comic book, right? So yeah, good panel layout. Interesting the way the comic looks. Now, when it comes to the story, on the other hand, oh my God, I was completely lost. I think if you are a hardcore Spawn fan, and you've been reading Spawn since issue 184, because I think this is around where the story takes place, then you're going to get what's going on. But they kind of just thrust you into this story about Nyx and, you know, certain things that she's dealing with and how she's going to like see the future and how she's going to become a certain entity and all the threats and all the other characters that she'll be teaming up with. And in that aspect, that was kind of cool. Like, this 2-page spread is amazing. And I honestly know everything that's going on right here because you're experiencing that right now. But this is a story, again, that takes place in the past. I'm like, man, they didn't do a good job at really introducing this character or what is this story? Like, I don't know. It felt like you just thrust it into you. So for that reason, like, unfortunately, I deem this one not worthy. Again, I think if you are a hardcore fan of her, I think you'll really like this. So at the end of the day, I wound up giving this one a D- just because I was just like completely lost. But this could be a book where it's all on me, and if you know the character, you might actually love this. Deadpool kills the Marvel Universe one last time. Is one last time too many times? We'll see. This book is 32 pages for the price of $5. It's written by Colin Bunn, wonderful writer. Artist is done by Dazzler. When it comes to the artwork in this book, it's all right. It's not my favorite. I said this in my haul. Like, I'm not a fan of the character's mask when you can see through and then you get to see their eyes. It just doesn't work, in my opinion. So, especially since you're so used to seeing those characters with just their masks on, right? You get to see that with Deadpool in the comic. You wind up getting to see Superior Spider-Man in this comic. And it's the same thing. For me, it just doesn't work. It's just like there's something missing in their costumes when their eyes are not covered up. But what this comic has to offer, especially in the beginning, is the same old thing that we've seen over and over again. We've wound up getting to see Deadpool just kill people from the Marvel Universe. And at first it's like, oh, we just got done killing the Marvel Universe. There comes a particular character. He kills him. And then there's somebody else. And she winds up putting Deadpool on a mission. And at first you think that mission is to actually kill the Marvel Universe once again, and he's going to all these different universes and things like that, and he's going to kill Superior Spider-Man. He goes to to Gladiator Hulk. He goes to the Punisher. He makes his rounds. This is nothing that we haven't seen 1,000 times already, and this is why I don't normally like Deadpool comic books, because this is pretty much what it is, right? With the new Deadpool series, he has a supporting cast. He has someone he cares about. He's not just talking to the audience all the time, right? And at the end of it, you find out that the plot changes a little bit. So because of the plot changing a little bit, I will deem this book worthy for now. But I still think it might be on the fence for me, because there are a lot of comic books out that I'm reading, and depending on when the next issue comes out and the amount of comic books that I'm going to be picking up, I'm not sure if I will pick up the next issue. So at the end of the day, I'm going to give this one a C. I thought it was very average. It can be a very forgettable series, especially if you read the two previous series. I feel like if you want to read a Deadpool Kills the Marvel Universe, go back and read the original one. I thought that one was the best one in my eyes. Daredevil, Cold Day in Hell. This is 40 pages for the price of $7. Little pricey for what it is. It's written by Charles Soule, and the art is done by Steve McNiven. He also does the coloring in this comic, which the coloring is really good. And the artwork, I think, might be an acquired taste. It definitely does fit the tone of this book, especially that Matt Murdock in this world is much older, right? We can see in this future that things are not quite what they used to be, right? And Matt Murdock in the beginning of this book does not have his powers. They're all messed up, and he can't act the same way that that he used to. He gets mugged. He's very I would say that he's a forgiving person because he's a man of his faith and he likes to help the homeless. And the artwork for me gets better when you start inserting those brighter colors, and it's got a little bit more room to breathe, like in these pages right here, right? But when you are in the other pages like this, there's a lot going on. I mean, it's very busy. Don't get me wrong. I give them credit where credit is due because they're packing a story in here with only 3 issues, because that's how long this little mini series actually is. And in this comic, again, we get to see him in this future where he's much older, doesn't have powers. There's this bomb that happens in the subway, and all of a sudden, due to the chemicals that's inside, he kind of, gets his powers back. And we see a hero in this comic book that's trying to save the day, which was very heartfelt. It's very fitting for the particular character. And then we wind up getting to see the main villain that's behind everything that's been going on in this comic book, right? And I thought that was kind of cool as well. However, when it came to the main villain, I did not know who that villain was. So in the comments below, let me know who it was, right? And then you wind up seeing another particular anti-hero in this book where you're just like, he's against the wall and he's got his limbs all chopped off and everything. It was quite weird, right? So I'm going to deem this book worthy. I thought this was a good story, but for me, I'm not a huge fan of this artwork. I could be in the minority here, but that artwork and how busy it was and how much they tried to compact in that just took me a little bit out of the story. I do appreciate it, though. I do like the future. I do like these old man stories. I'll be curious to see where it goes. But at the end of the day, I didn't give it the best grade. I gave it a C+. This is something that definitely has promise, and I think it can get better as time goes along. Now, here's the book that I deemed my sleeper pick of the week. I'm sure this was a book that maybe not everybody heard of, but I knew of this writer. I have read all his stuff, and this is called I Was a Fashion School Serial Killer. This is issue 1. It's a 32-page comic for the price of $4. Now, Doug Wagner is the writer. His artist is Daniel Hillard. These guys work together all the time. They wrote the series by the name of Plastic, which was hysterical. Then there was Plastic Death and Dolls, which is a sequel. Then there was Plush, where people were dressing up as furries. And then there was Vinyl, which was another good story. So I kind of know what to expect going into this book, right? And the reason what makes his book so good is that he develops the character first. So you get attached to the character, obviously, and you almost want to root for these characters because they're sick in the head. There's something wrong with them. They're mentally disturbed, and you can't help but root for the character. And that's what makes the book so good. So in this one, here is the artwork. This is what you can expect. It's great artwork, right? Again, you wouldn't think that looking at this, it's that, oh, this is going to be a serial killer book. But it shows you that you don't know who you're with in your world, right? You don't know what's going on in their head that they could be this crazy killer. And what this book is, it's about a female by the name of, I think her name is Renee or Rini, and she gets accepted to this high-profile fashion school. And what happens here is she has this sickness, this disease, to the point where if something bothers her, she gets anxious and she has to kill people. And she uses people's flesh to design her clothes. And so her clothes are so unique that that's why she gets accepted to this fashion school. So she has these like pins in her hair. They're made out of ivory. The jacket she wears is human flesh, but she lies of what it's made out of. And in this book, you get introduced to her. You get introduced to the supporting cast, the world, everything that's going on around her. And in the meantime, you get to see the things that kind of, are around her that bug her, and you're waiting and waiting and waiting for that like first kill, that action, that gore that you're expecting. And you don't get that really until you get to the end of this comic book. So if you're not into like everyday, like slice of life stuff in the beginning of this series, then this might not be for you. But I'm telling you, you got to give it time because you start getting to the stuff of this. And the murders become so brutal, and then you get to see the sick and twisted side of the serial killer. So this book, in my eyes, is absolutely worthy. I love this book. This is a pure setup to see the character, to see the world, and then we're going to see how things get, how dark it becomes, and where does she go with all of this. So at the end of the day, I'm giving this one a B+. It wasn't a perfect book, right? This could be a little bit of a slow burn for a first issue, but I know what is going to come in the future, and I'm on board for this ride. Plague House, this is issue 1. This is a book from Oni Press. I don't know how many of you guys decided to pick this one up. This one is a $5 comic book. It's written by Michael Conrad. Dave Chisholm is the artist on this book. Now, the artwork is okay. I like the colors. It's dark. It's creepy. It changes the color tone based off of events that are happening in the book. So when someone is like having a flashback, they go to the gray. When something intense is happening, it changes to red. And I do like that element of the comic. There's definitely some creepy vibe stuff going on in here, right? So for instance, you get this guy that is about to commit murders of his wife and his children. And at that point of the comic book, it gets very dark, very creepy, very fast. And it's like, oh my gosh, like, it's almost like I'm witnessing something happening right in front of me. Like, that's how much it impacted me. Like, it was almost real. And it was sad to visually see this guy murder his wife and his 2 kids, right? And it was like, wow, that is intense and very heavy. But what this story really is about, it's about these ghost hunters that are investigating these murders that happened in this house. Now, this is a ghost house, and they never knocked this house down. There was supposed to be a park built in its place. And so they're like, well, this gives us an opportunity to study paranormal activity. And that's how you wind up discovering all these murders that happened in this house. And so along the way, you get introduced to the different cast of characters. One guy was a kid that, like, I don't know, experienced an exorcism when he was younger, like he was part of it. Another kid saw a person die and he sees dead people, like, you know, the movie The Sixth Sense. And then so you get introduced to all those cast of characters. You get to see how the murders happen and they see dead people. That's basically what this comic is. And throughout the entire book, I actually liked it until we got to the end. And it fast forwards towards I think 1 year in the future. And then it just got weird. You know, and then I was like, oh man, I don't know now if I'm going to continue it. But I still deem this particular issue worthy. It just got weird in that very last page. I'm like, we went through this haunted house where these brutal murders happen and you're studying these ghosts. And then you leave it on this cliffhanger that's supposed to be like, oh wow, that was a great cliffhanger. And I'm like, no, it wasn't. That just like took me totally out of the issue altogether. And because of that, I don't know if I'm going to pick that up. But for a issue overall, I gave it a B- because it had me intrigued into the end. And so are we going to be 1 year in the future in the next issue, or are we going back to that house? Because that's where the story was interesting. So I don't know, man. Just because of that, now I'm really on the fence with the next issue. Absolute Green Lantern issue 1, probably one of the more highly anticipated comics of the week. This is a 36-page comic for the price of $5. This one is written by Al Ewing, and Janoy Lindsay does the artwork. So we're going to talk about this book because I feel like this book for a lot of people are going to like it or not like it because it has a very distinct style to it. And this book has, I would say, anime or manga style, right? When you look at all the different cast of characters in here. And it opens up with Hal Jordan confronting a police officer, and he has something in his pocket and he's like, I can't show you. And there's this big confrontation that starts right from the beginning of the comic. Now, this book is a quick read, which I am surprised because Al Ewing tends to do things a little bit more dense, but I get that this is a first issue and it kind of just sprinkles certain elements in this book, and I'm sure he'll dive deeper as time goes along in this book. You get introduced again to Hal Jordan, Jojo Mullins, and you get introduced to John Stewart. Guy is mentioned in here. The funny thing is Hal Jordan in this comic book, he's a toy guy. Like, he sells toys. He sells collectibles. I thought that was flipping awesome in the comic book. So again, in the beginning of this book, you do wind up seeing Hal Jordan. There's something going on with him. You're not sure what it is. Something happened in his town, and based off of the preview, you wind up getting to see what you think is like maybe the Green Lantern battery in this world or whatnot, and you get to see a different version of like Abin Sur in here. Now you know who Abin Sur is. He's the one that obviously hands Green Lantern or Hal Jordan the power ring to become Green Lantern. But in this one, things are just much different. Hal Jordan touches that crazy thing from the sky, and all of a sudden he develops this black hand, this like Mr. Negative hand. And when you touch it, things go awfully wrong, right? And you're just like, whoa. And so now things are completely out there, completely different from everything that you know from Green Lantern altogether, and you barely get Jo in here as Green Lantern. She's only introduced in the very last page. There's no spoiler here. We know because she's on the cover, right? So obviously things are just getting started here, and this book for me was worthy. I absolutely loved it. Now, I'm not the hugest manga or anime guy, but I do like things being different. Again, this is a absolute universe comic. Things are going to be different. You really can't always compare the main universe to alternate universe comic books. If you do, then you're not going to like this comic. I don't think you will. I like how it's different enough that it's telling it almost its own unique story, but it has things that are similar, right? That's what I liked about it. So I'm very curious what's going to happen. What's with this black hand? What happens to Hal? Like, there's a lot of questions here, and I'm sure Al Ewing will do his best to answer them, and hopefully it doesn't go too over the top to where it goes over your head. He can do that. He wrote a great Immortal Hulk, and by the time you got to the end of that book, things got a little weird. Things got weird with his last run at Venom. Weird shit at Immortal Thor as well. So let's hope he keeps it a little bit more simplistic so everyone can follow. At the end of the day, I had a blast. A+ for me. What'd you guys think of this? Are you on board or not? And there you guys have it. There are all my thoughts and opinions on those newest issue ones. Do you agree? Do you disagree? Let me know in the comments section below. You guys are great. Remember, give this video a thumbs up. There's more content right here for you to click on. And as always, guys, remember, support the local comic shops. Keep buying, keep collecting, but always remember, read your comic books so we have great comic conversation just like we had today. Guys, I'll see you on that next video. Take care. Bye.